Peace, everyone. I hope you are very well. We're going to jump right into the Arabia Exploration Part 2, covering some tracks over Arabia Mountain and they're actually referred to as monadnocks, more technically speaking. They aren't actually mountains. Elevated rocks that give you a beautiful view once you get to the top. Now, these are channels that if you check out the first video, I definitely have some recordings, including pictures of these channels that are dispersed throughout the quarry zones, or as I was reading of the history of this area, that belonged to granite companies like the Davidson family granite companies, which I believe there were multiple entities under the Davidson family name. And you can see the drill holes in these stones, and look at that big rectangle block that it seems like they would move some of these in bigger sections, and other rocks that were smaller, they would crush even further down and turn them into grit. So anywhere from a building all the way to the Brooklyn Bridge and to the chicken feed, this was made resourceful for, it seems like, from the mid 1800s to the 1900s. Early 1900s to mid 1900s, and it slowed down. So enjoy this exploration. I'm going to narrate as we go through these areas, and you will see these channels. These are anywhere from 4 to 6 feet all the way up to 10 feet later on, as you will see. Please let me know what you think about this. I will share what I learned about the history of these of this area and these monadnocks. You can see that it's been enough time for the rock to break down and enough soil to build up, to be built on top of the rock to allow trees to grow. Now you can see these cracks that I was pointing out in the video that have it seems like they had like a peg in them. From what I was reading, they would make a hole and then hammer a peg in there, and then they would use air compressor or dynamite. I don't know. I think that they were used at different times, or maybe there were different methods being used at different times or different places on the rock. Please let me know what you think. I'm learning as I go. I'm kind of just exploring, and definitely not an expert in geology. The composition of the mountain or the rock rather, is gneiss, which is also known as tidal gray. And you can see here in this area, it starts to patternize in light and dark, and other areas the rocks have a swirling pattern due to the atmosphere, heat and pressure, and environmental conditions in different time periods millions of years ago. And that formed a pressure that caused slipping, or would basically form that Laffy Taffy looking swirl pattern. This is from what I was reading. Please let me know again what you see. That would be amazing. So there are some more holes drilled out. I don't see anything. Some of these are interesting. Some of the holes I see drilled in are like, why would they be there? Because that isn't necessarily breaking anything off. But you can see there's different areas that have been blasted out. And we're moving up on the rock a little ways. And the cuts are so clean. A lot of this is flat, pretty flat, after it's been blasted off. So The technique and the method, as you saw in the previous pictures, would produce those rectangle slabs that could be definitely used for construction or for building. Now, how heavy those are and how they're moving those, that are that large, if it was some strong horses and buggies, I would assume they can only carry still so much weight and size of stone at a time. So I did see some pictures, but it really doesn't seem like there's many photographs, just one or two here or there. I'm still digging though. And you can see the area really, it looks decimated. It looks like it's just blown up, pieces everywhere. And I'm kind of walking through to give an idea of what the terrain was left like. This Davidson company apparently ended up leaving because there was no more demand for the rocks anymore. They stopped building with it, and I guess they found something better to build with. At least that's what they say. And I think it was like the mid-1900s or so they stopped, and in the 70s they donated a section, which eventually has grown over time, of the area to create a preserved area. And this rock is, they say, 475 million years old in the making, so around Appalachian Trail and other rocks like Stone Mountain in formation. So you could see here 6 inches or so. There are drill presses, there are holes with the drill press, it seems like. Now I thought, well, would that be like where a dynamite stick goes in? And then they set off all the dynamite, they connect and do a blast, which then sends a sheet, like a slab of that rock, clean off. Let me know what you think. I wasn't out there. Apparently this is what they did. I believe it. I'm just interested and curious to see how it went down and what the methods were. And are the methods all the same that in this area, or did they use different methods? So you can see here, those are probably 10 inches apart or so. See that whole, yeah, it's a pretty long stretch. So blasting this out was no joke. As you can see here, we have more, let's say, drill press holes. And let me know what you think. They only go down, it looks like it would fit a stick of dynamite, or maybe that's just my imagination. Yeah, and between that and the other method being compressed air compressor, so that sounds like a pretty powerful air compressor blast. They would fill the fractures with air, is what they were saying, something like that, and blast out certain areas. So it sounds like there was a couple of different methods being entertained. You can see these are layers. They're like huge steps, like just steps for giants. If you didn't have the history of the quarry, you'd think that it was, there were steps for giants. There's layers here. Look at this. Look at that. I just thought it was fascinating to see these layers out like this, exposed. Interesting. And here we have a pile of those enormous rectangular blocks and some rubble over here. Just piles and piles of rubble and some of those enormous blocks left over. And this site apparently has not been touched since it's been donated. And you are allowed to come out and visit and explore the area. I do definitely recommend, if you do come out here, to watch out for all the flora and fauna in the area. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's incredible. I will do an exploration of just the botany and geology when I learn more about it and gather the material, this was just certain there were just certain things that stuck out to me while I was doing some research. And when I got here, it was like, wow, this is interesting. Here I was like, oh, what is this? In the middle of, this rock. But it ended up being, yes, at first it looks a little weird. And when you open it, it's like, okay. But it was like an offering box. At first it looks like trash or it looks weird, but it's not. It wasn't weird. It was good juju. I actually left a pack of. I didn't have anything really to offer, but I did have some snacks. So, some wrapped snacks, granola bar. So I left that there, and yeah, there's the good juju offering box that I stumbled on. Thankfully, it was good juju. All right, so. Now we're back. You can see these trees growing right out of the top of this rock. It's just amazing to me. It's had that much time to develop these little ecosystems that exist in little holes, basically, little craters, basically, in the rock surface. All right, now you can see again areas where every 8 inches ish. And if you were sticking little dynamite sticks in there, hooking it all up and blasting it off. You're telling it just to have such a straight fracture cut is a pretty impressive. Anyways, there's so much left over from this, and what they left is just it looks like a war zone. Looks like aftermath. Look at this. That was like, this was all left over from the blasting? Or did they tear stuff down and just leave the stuff like maybe buildings? Maybe they had buildings sitting on top of some of these locations. I have a bonus in the end of this that is actually going to maybe surprise you. I'm not sure. You'll see. Once we get down to the back end of this rock here, just huge cracks in the surface. And you can see it's a pretty big. It expands out pretty far. That's new construction down there. Now this area right here, that is not, from what I could tell, it looks like was a building or something. It looks like there was something there. And look how nicely those blocks are cut. Just massive blocks though. Try and get some perspective of how big these blocks are. This area down here. And what would happen is you see the water, the pool of water that was just on the screen. Eventually, the chemical erosion and other lichen and other bacterias and other primary succession starter microbes will all collect in these pools of water, and your primary succession began in the water, and life began once more. Material, decomposed material built up in certain areas for seeds to spread across this landscape. And now, yes, home to many big trees that are just right in the rock. Yeah, so these channels, you can see this is one of the largest sections it seems like they were blasting. And it's over, I would say about 10 feet. It's about 10 feet high. And this one does have the huge channel all the way to the bottom. I'm walking up on it now, and you'll see. What was that for? And then you could see the press for the drills, which I'm thinking dynamite, or maybe those were the metal pegs. Or did they pick them all up after every single time? Go collect them. Collect all the pegs. There's definitely not a bunch of pegs laying around. I found one or two, but they're still stuck in the rock. There's another pretty long channel. Now you can see this is clearly taller than me. This is a pretty long section here, you'll see here. So there you go. And here's the bonus. I came across, this looks like a shed or an old side building. Please let me know what you think, when this could have been constructed or anything, whatever you think. I would love to hear your comments about it. I'm, like I said, no expert at any of the construction. I'm just exploring, but loving the adventure and learning about everything along the way. So I'm going to the main building now. This area I was just showing was about 30 feet from the bigger building, which, if I had to guess from what I was reading, it would have been something like the quarry office. So we're going to move over there to it. I actually came up on that first. So here's the back side of that. And you'll see the blocks as I get closer. Please let me know what you think. It's still standing pretty darn sturdy. There you can see the rectangular blocks that are sitting up on that I had showed in the prior videos. It's sitting on the window ledge. It's like the top frame for the window. And then this block that's been, you can see the mortar in between and the rough block construction. It's beautiful. I wonder, what do you think in age, how old this might be? I guess it was mid 1800s possibly. It looks like an old office quarry, if that's what it is. Or tell me what you think it is. I would love to know everybody's thoughts. You could clearly see that it has made a home to some trees. They're about 20 feet tall. They're not enormous yet, but they've been there for a while. There you go. I'm checking it out. Is this the office quarry? That was a fence post somebody must have brought down there. That was not from back. That was from, looked like the construction they were doing a little bit of ways up. So there you go. What is this? What's this block? What was going on? What was on top of that? Here's a pipe that seems to be well buried in the ground. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like I said, no small trees. They're decent, They're not big, but they're not saplings. So yes, obviously the frame, no windows, open, just all open. Very interesting to me. Rather small. I guess it could be a small office for the quarry. And what is this? Trying to see what it says. And this was connected to this building. I'm actually up on top of it. I climbed up on top to get a better view of this roof and this area. Now right there that I'm showing it has no doors. Okay, this is like 10 or 12 foot drop. All right, and it's just like an enclosed rectangle. So let me know what that's for, if anybody has an idea. I'm definitely curious. And that side was it was open, so it made sense you could like store something in there. Maybe there was a door on it. But this area, like I said, there's no door, entry. It's just a drop into a rectangular hole that's like 10 feet deep. So let me know what you think that would be for. And then I'm just showing the top. That I definitely think there was a roof on here at some point. And yeah, just incredible. Fascinating to me. This structure, I mean, I would say 150 years old, easy. Let me know what you think. Have to get down now. And this is a view from the lower side, one of the lower sides of the rock, and you can just see the decimation that was done and kind of just left over. You'd think that, I mean, that's money. All that was money that they left. I guess they didn't need it. There you go. That's a slab that when I just was explaining the frame of that window, it's kind of like that's what one of those look like. Massive though. The one in that window was not that big. And just sharing a few more pictures as we get through the presentation. You can see all the way in that background there too, those blocks stacked up on top. I mean, just to give perspective of how big they are. And beautiful rock. And certain parts of the rocks have different composition and were used for different things, such as poultry feed. It would be added to like the chicken grit, and it helped like apparently the eye of the chicken, because it would shine a little bit and they would eat it, and it would also help with their digestion. And it apparently became one of the biggest the biggest in the world, chicken or poultry. That's what they said. Poultry chicken grit feed. So you could see here I'm just examining holes, drilled in holes, pieces that seem to have been blasted off. This is I think I took this sideways, so yeah, that's a sideways picture. I'm going to see, I think I can rotate this. Anywho, very interesting. And the Davidson family that donated all of this was Scottish. That's where the name comes from. And it was interesting to go trace back the Freemason order that moved the Scottish Rite that moved into the Americas. This was early in mid 1700s, I believe, 1761 or something like that, somewhere around the Declaration of Independence signing. And also, I think in 1776 or 1775, the Bavarian order Illuminati order was founded. So there were these orders or rites being brought into America, and some guys getting together to make some plans for construction. And it seems like the Davidson family was wealthy in Scotland, and I think they did quarrying from what I was reading, and they would come here biannually, so seasonally. When temperatures were more favorable here, they would come here, and when they were more favorable at home, they'd send the workers home. So many of the workers here were immigrants, migrants, and also slaves, from what I was reading, that were in the area of white, European, black, all of the different types. So there's the slab, side view of the slab, and how big these pieces are. Just absolutely massive chunks. And you could definitely build with these. So yeah, I just wanted to share this exploration. Hopefully you enjoyed the footage. There's still a few minutes left of images. You'll see the rubble here that's built up. It's just absolutely wild how much was left over. I guess they really did just drop their work and say, well, we're not coming back. No need to come back here. There's no demand anymore. Apparently this moved all over the country in railroads, and it was used in the Brooklyn Bridge, some buildings in Lithonia, and something. And you can read into this. I'll do more research as well. It's just interesting, this site alone, to explore and go through and see what was made of all this 150 years ago. And sure enough, oh yeah, okay, there we go. We have some better pictures of piles that you can see that they just left. I mean, that's a lot of money. I guess, again, they didn't need it at that point. It wasn't really about that. And the history of this area goes back before these guys came in the early 1800s, like 1820 something. Apparently, this is what you can read this. You might read different things. This is what I was reading into. But the Creek and the Muskogee were associated with this area, and it was kind of like a trade buffer, like a trade zone. And they used the South River, which is actually, that's the, what's the word for the river? Starts with a O, I believe. The South River has a much more native name. These are some pieces of equipment that I came across, and definitely wanted to grab some photos of. Let me know what you think this is, or this was used for. And this is the inside picture of that piece of machinery. Looks like it spun. If you drop something in it, that has spun something. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like a axle or in the middle. Yeah, there's this that looks like a housing for maybe some electrical power machinery, possibly. Maybe it was their big air compressors and some control knobs for some pressure knobs. Let me know what you think. Anyways, have fun exploring. I hope you enjoyed this exploration. I will definitely be back in another video. And until then, please take care. Much love. Peace.